I am here today in Santa Monica, Los Angeles with Aussie comedian and television host Mr. Rove McManus. So thanks for spending time with me. You are a busy man. Can you tell us all what life has been like for you over here, and what you have been up to since you had left Australia?
Well, I have been, it's been nearly 3 years now, if you can believe that. So it's been quite a while. I still get back to Australia when I can, but initially I came up just to kind of have a bit of a break and get away for a couple of months, and that couple of months has now turned into a couple of years. But it's been good. I've been doing my regular spots on The Tonight Show and Chelsea lately, and of course doing Rove LA, which is about to head into its second series, and I've been getting back into doing some stand-up, and it's been great. And the weather's normally a bit nicer than this. Malena, I'm sorry, we have not done our effort today. I moved from Melbourne, one of the most unpredictable cities in the world for weather, to come to what was meant to be one of the most glorious places on earth, and look at this grey skies. Good for shooting though, as we know, as we TV people know.
Your work with Jalino has involved a fair bit of travelling around. Do you enjoy this? And what are some of the more memorable places that you have travelled to in America as part of your job?
Firstly, yes, I absolutely love it, because it means I get to go and visit parts of the country that I probably would never otherwise get to go to. There were two places that I really enjoyed. There was a place up in Wisconsin, which is where they make cheese. So I really loved that. That was for a lumberjack festival. It's frightening. They're big people, and they wield axes, and it shouldn't happen, but they do. And they drink a lot, and then they pick up an axe again while they do it. It's frightening. And then, but I think my favourite was the very first one I did. Took me to northern Minnesota, which is very, very close to the Canadian border. So it's up in the northern part of the country, and it was the middle of winter, freezing cold, and it was a festival that was on top of a frozen lake. So it's a small town called Walker, Minnesota. And it gets so cold there that the lake freezes over, and everybody drives all these like caravans and things and road RVs out onto the ice, and they have this huge party where they drink, not surprisingly. And the best experience I got to have was the end of this festival. They cut a huge hole in the ice, and everybody jumps in, and I got roped into it and jumped in, and it's a cold the likes of which I've never felt before or since. I was completely wet, and I was in a kangaroo suit. Long story, we don't need to go into that. But then when I came out, it's worse when you come out, because it's the air that keeps everything so cold. So when you're underwater, it's actually not too bad. But you come out, the air hits you, and suddenly I was walking. They had like a spa set up to keep everybody warm afterwards. And I started to go to the spa, and I didn't make it before the suit started to freeze.
Do you use the line "say hi to young mum for me" in the US or not?
Yes, I do, all the time, absolutely. You'll be very pleased to know. And not only, I use it when I do any kind of TV thing here. I use it when I do stand-up gigs here. And you'll be very pleased to know that when I say it in America, it doesn't turn into "say hi to your mom for me." The you will always stay there, I guarantee you.
I could imagine it would have been hard to leave your comfort zone in Australia and start afresh here. What I find amazing is the transition from the early days of hosting a loft live with a budget of $50 a week to where you are now. What advice would you give young people, not just in the entertainment industry but in general, about chasing their dreams and career planning?
Yeah, well, the Loft Live, the show that I did on 31, was when we say the budget was $50, it cost us $50 every week. So we were out of pocket. The more we did the show, the more money we lost. It was everybody was a volunteer, and so it was a really great environment to be in. But the makeup lady, although she would work for free, would say she obviously needed to cover the costs of buying makeup for us all. So she would get $50 every week just to cover her costs a little bit. So it was actually us being out of pocket. Yeah, it's I get asked a lot about people from people who are trying to get into the industry and are thinking about 31 in particular. And I would never tell anybody not to do it, because for me it was the best breeding ground to hone your craft, like off Broadway, as they say, where some weeks I would wonder whether if I got up and left the show midway through, whether anyone would even notice. You don't know if there's anyone watching. And if anything was going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong on 31, because all the equipment's a bit old and none of us really know what we're doing. So that was a really good learning experience for me. And I know some people now will get into 31 with the idea of maybe they could take similar steps. But what they have to remember is I didn't get into 31 with the idea of, well, I'll be seen by Channel 9, which I was, and then that will lead to work in other places. I just went there because it was a fun place to be, a tremendous creative environment, and I got to work with like-minded individuals. And I think that's where you need, everybody needs to find their place, is just find people that are like-minded, who have similar interests to you creatively, and can help stimulate you for what you want to do in the industry, whether it be comedy, whether it be acting, whether it be journalism, whether it be music. You gravitate to those people that are going to inspire you to do better things, and hopefully you can likewise inspire them. But when I look back now at where I am here, which was never the plan at all. And you know, I keep saying to people at the Tonight Show, for example, when we were doing our show in Australia, people would call it a Tonight Show. They would say that the genre of the show that we were was a Tonight Show. We weren't on every night. We were on once a week. Granted, we were in prime time, but it gets called a Tonight Show because the show that Jay does now, and the long legacy that has, is what we now use as the yardstick to describe every other show that's come since. So when I think now, the young, long-haired, I don't know if you've seen the photos, Marlena, it's very embarrassing, long, mullety-haired boy in this ill-fitting suit, hosting a show on Channel 31, to think that one day he would be part of the greatest franchise in television history is pretty cool. So all I can say to yourself and any other young people who would be interested in getting into any part of the industry whatsoever is just believe in yourself, stick with it, and just forge your own path. Don't get too caught up in what everybody else is doing and how they've done it. It's always good to be inspired, but just know what works for you. Have a goal in mind and walk that line, and you'll be fine. Maybe one day you too will be interviewed by Marlena. Who knows? You'd have to be pretty good though.
I have spoken in high schools, and I think many kids are unclear on their future. I was interested in meeting you as a show that started at RMIT University has gone on to this. All I can say is wow. If you were given $50 now to put a weekly show together, what would the show be? Who would it involve? And do you think people would watch it?
I think the third part of that is the prickly part of the question. Would people watch it? We can only hope. We can only hope. Look, if I was to do a show now, it would be, I probably would do it the same way I did before. When I started out, both on Channel 31 and then when the show moved to Channel 9. And even then, in later years when we were at Channel 10 as well, I always wanted to work with people that, for me as a comedian, whose work I really respected, and they made me laugh. So it was working with friends who were in the industry. So when I started out on Channel 31, I was working with a wonderful comedian called Kim Hope, Adam Richard, who now does a lot of radio around Australia on the Austereo network, and Peter Hellier came along as well. And then when I moved to Channel 9, it was the same thing. Peter Hellier, Corinne Grant, of course, and Dave Callan. I don't know if people remember Dave, big, hairy Irishman who does a wonderful rendition of Beyonce's Single Ladies. I don't know if you've seen it. It's on YouTube. Look it up. Dave Callan, Single Ladies. But like Dave had been a friend of mine from Perth, where I grew up on the west coast of Australia, and we started doing stand-up around the same time. And he was one of the funniest guys, and still is one of the funniest guys I know, and we became very close friends. And I always thought if the opportunity ever comes up to do anything, I would want to be doing it with him. And so I called him up and said, would you be willing to move from Perth to Melbourne to be part of a show that might not get picked up? It was only a pilot, and he came over, and I'm so glad he did. And then later on, same thing, we added Hamish and Andy and Ryan Shelton and Dave Hughes and Judith Lucy, all these people that were so much fun to be around and so much fun to work with. And again, it just kind of, you know, helps drive the creativity in the group. So if I could do it all over again, that's I'd probably keep it very much that way, and still doing a talk show. I do enjoy that type of format. Probably closer to what we've got now with Rove LA. It's a very loose format. There's not really much scripted stuff. It's a lot of playing around. If anything, I wouldn't mind going back and doing a show with all our old crew where it's us just talking and mucking around, and maybe not so much sketch and scripted material, because everybody's very funny enough to work without a safety net, definitely.
Dreams can come real, I guess, with a bit of hard work. I was hoping you would say that it would involve the many people in your circle of friends now that would help out an Aussie for nothing. Then you would offer a budding journalist, hint hint me, a job, and my crappy video guy can do the video work for a McDonald's meal. I think it is important to network and have wide range of people to assist in our lives who have been your biggest supports and role models in shaping your career to where it is today.
Well, firstly, I'm glad I kind of answered the question the right way. It seems like we're on the same wavelength, which is great. There's always been plenty of people in the industry that have been role models. I do look to people like Johnny Carson, who certainly didn't begin the Tonight Show, but he was the one who made this format what it is, and truly a very gifted, naturally gifted individual. Closer to home, you know, I've always been a huge fan of Bert Newton, and he was one of those people. The first time I ever met him, I would have been very happy for him to be, if I can say this, a bit of an arsehole. If he wanted to be, I would have said, that's fine, you're Bert Newton, you have earned the right to be that way. But he wasn't. He was just so giving, and has always been in my career. And so people like that have certainly been role models for me. And when it comes to support and stuff like that, like my mum's so great. I think all mums are pretty cool. And certainly mine was when I said, when I was in Perth, I was doing a fine arts degree. I was majoring in painting and minoring in sculpture. And I said to Mum, I was doing a little bit of stand-up on the side. I said, I think I'm going to move out of home. And I think she probably thought I was going to move up the road or something into a little flat. And she said, oh, where are you going to move? And I said, I'm going to move to Melbourne. I'm going to try this stand-up comedy thing. And she was like, okay, off you go. In her head, she's probably thinking, my son is crazy, but always very supportive in no matter what. So yeah, I think definitely family and friends is an important thing to have, and no matter what you're trying to do, just surround yourself with people who are there to make you want to succeed, you know, and then you absolutely can't go wrong. And certainly very gifted journalists are very important to have as well on any successful project. Young, beautiful journalists who would fly halfway across the world to talk to some idiot in a check shirt. I don't know if you can think of any, Marlena, right now, but we are currently looking. So your people and my people will be in touch, I'm sure.
At the age of 21, you packed up your bags and told your parents you were moving to Melbourne to be a comedian. What was their reaction to this? And what do you think they thought you should have been doing if not comedy? What would have been a more safe choice on the surface?
Jeez, I don't know. I don't know what the safe choice really would have been. I mean, in some respects, you'd almost go like working in the financial sector, but in the last couple of years, that would have come back to bite you. I don't know what. Well, certainly, my mum said to me when I said, "Oh, I'm gonna move to Melbourne to become a comedian." She said, "You can, but." I'd only completed 2 years of my arts degree, so she said you can't quit, you have to defer, meaning you just essentially put your degree on hold and you can go back to study years later and complete it if you want. So even now, if this whole TV thing goes horribly wrong for me, I could go back and finish my fine arts degree. So maybe that's something to fall back on. I could do some painting.